What is good? Osiris here, special guest. We are live right now, stuck in the middle. Thank you for joining. If you could stop on by. We've got Jennifer from Sweet Home, California. Great YouTube channel. Thank you for taking the time, Jennifer. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Osiris. Thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely. So I've been following your channel and seeing your lives and so much information, and we're going to get into everything from hot topics, the leaked decision that has never happened before in the Supreme Court, crazy
hmm
stuff with overturning Roe v. Wade, and then we'll get into prep stuff, preppers. Like if you're not talking about prepping now, I don't know when you would. Not that
hmm
doom and gloom is coming, but we'll talk about that with you and many other topics. So let's get started. You've got the pro life shirt on, and if you
hmm
don't know yet, if you've been under a rock, as they say, Politico yesterday reported the opinion of the decision, probably written by Alito, and the majority decision was leaked. Never before that I've heard, and I've heard other people say it too, that there were very strong arguments to overturn Roe v. Wade. Jennifer, what were your thoughts on it?
Well, I got to tell you, I was on my way to see Dinesh D'Souza's film 2000 Mules. And my daughter texted me. She is going to be graduating from Liberty University here in a few days. She texted me. She said, "Abortion is illegal." And I'm like, well, I knew that Oklahoma was signing a law. I'm like, okay, all right. So was this something different? Because that was about a week or so ago. I'm like, what state? And she says, all 50. And as a pro life mom, to have your daughter go through 4 years of college and be excited about the possibility of Roe v. Wade being stricken down, I feel like that is like a success on the parent scale. That's definitely a 10. That she knew I would be excited about it. She's excited about it, and unfortunately, she's not exactly correct in that, because if Roe v. Wade is struck down, it brings it down to the states. So, but it is a step in the right direction from my perspective. I believe that life begins at conception, and that every child is a gift from God. So I'm very happy to hear that. I am concerned though, because obviously this hadn't ever been done before, a leak like this. Um, and it's not final. Their votes are not final until it's published officially. So this leak happened, I believe, with the express purpose of trying to change the court's decision.
Yeah, it's a somewhat of a disturbing thing that we've seen here with the leak. I mean, we've got two things going on: the decision by itself, and then the leak. So
hmm
thanks everybody for joining. My thought on the leak, and then we can kind of get back to the decision, is it's I don't know whose mind they're going to change, because you look at it, it's probably Alito, Thomas, Gorsuch, ACB, and Kavanaugh are probably the five who are overturning it, and then the other four: Breyer, Sotomayor, Kagan, and Roberts.
hmm
So I don't,
So I've heard
Alito's not
Roberts is
changing.
on the fence on it. I've heard that he
So
could go either way, and you know, from a religious background perspective, he is at least nominally Catholic, which is supposed to be pro-life. But of course, so is Pelosi and Biden, and they're
uh,
definitely not. So, but we shall see.
yeah, yeah. So here's the reason why I don't think Roberts was for overturning it, because the
Oh,
language, yeah, the language in the opinion was very strong.
hmm
And I don't know if Roberts would have. It didn't sound like Roberts would have signed off on it, but who knows? This, who are they going to change? Though, let's just assume it was those. You're not changing Alito. You're not changing Thomas. You're not changing ACB. I don't think Amy Coney Barrett.
hmm
You're not changing Gorsuch. I think it might only be Kavanaugh, and he's the. What do you think?
I don't know. This Supreme Court has been very disappointing in a number of other cases. That those three that number 45 nominated and got confirmed to Supreme Court, that they did not side the way we thought that they would side. So I was hopeful that this would be the result, that they would vote to basically strike down Roe v. Wade. But as to who might change their mind, it could be any one of those three, because all three of them have been disappointing at some point in the last, since they've been nominated. And in particular, Kavanaugh and ACB, they have young children. And so they have worries of the world that they've got to be concerned about. Are their kids going to have to go to school with Secret Service? They don't even have Secret Service. I think it's the U.S. Marshals that are responsible for securing the Supreme Court justices. But I mean, it's very concerning, and they definitely need our prayers.
Yeah, things are getting really out of control now. I mean, this has never happened before. It's endangering people, really. What do you think? So, right, I view our country as a marriage. And right now, so me personally, I'm pro-life. So if I'm married, if my wife, I'm not going to get into too much detail, but it's not going to happen. Let's just say this. But hypothetically, if she were about to get pregnant, there is no way that I would be encouraging her to have an abortion. But I still do feel that I didn't make the rules. God did, and God gave women a lot of power. And as crazy as it is to me and many other people, should women have that control over it? And is the happy medium leaving it up to the states? Are you happy with just leaving it up to the states?
There are some pro-life groups that are absolutists, that if it isn't completely striking down abortion, they will argue against the bill. So there have been people, legislators that call themselves pro-life that have voted against these bills that limit abortion to 20 weeks, 15 weeks, 8 weeks, 6 weeks, because it didn't eliminate it completely. And that's really making, what is it, the good the enemy of the best, or what, I don't know. It basically is like, if you can't have it all, you don't want anything. I agree. I think that we need to take one step at a time, and hopefully along that path that we are changing hearts and minds, so that people just internalize that it's unthinkable to get rid of their children, just as now it's unthinkable that we would enslave someone. That takes time, I believe. And so I think this is a good first step. Put it back to the states, and then from there, we can work to hopefully make it unthinkable.
Yeah, and I really appreciate you have a reasonable position on it. And I just wish that we could come to the table and have reasonable positions on either side. And Mike Taggs commented here, yeah, the left are violent extremists and are our greatest threat. And I often call the leftists, I know this is generalizing, I know it's dangerous, but this is what I see. The left they're always the aggressors on these things. I think there are more people who are not on the left that are happy with, they view it as it's not protected by the Constitution. 10th Amendment says if it's not in the Constitution, it's up to the states. Leave it up to the states. But for the left, that's not enough. It's got to be legal everywhere. So to me, that's a perfect example of why I say, even if it's not violence, the left is always aggressive. And then the non-left is like, let's compromise here. And then they keep getting pushed and pushed and pushed. Would you support, if there's a red wave, I don't know if it would be constitutional or not, but would you support Congress trying to pass a law to ban it nationwide?
I think it might be too soon for that. I would vote for it, but I think that, practically speaking, I think that it would be very divisive and destructive at this point. I think we need to have a little bit of time where it's at the state level. And again, just making sure that women that are in crisis know that there are options for them, that is life affirming, that there is the possibility of adoption, that they can decide, you know what, over the course of the 9 months that they carry that child, that they grow to love the child and want to keep it. And yes, it will change your life. But I think most parents would agree it changes your life for the better. It makes you more responsible. It makes you think more about the future and not just being inwardly focused and selfish.
Yeah. So I agree. For me personally, I think leaving it up to the states is the best way forward on this. We don't agree on the constitutionality of it. Eric Smith says, yes, God gave women a lot of power, but still, when it comes down to, are the males still not basically the head, just like Jesus is the head over the church? So I think what he's saying is, yes, women have a lot of power, but men should have some say. I think that's a legitimate take. And you could argue, I say women have a lot of power and responsibility. I said responsibility, so you could argue the responsibility is what you're really a proponent for, right?
Well, I absolutely. I think abortion, it allows men to not be the head of the household. It allows them to just use women and throw them away and not face up to any sort of responsibilities. And I think that's what the problem has been with having legalized abortion, is that what is legal, unfortunately, people then start to believe is moral. And and so you're going to have a lot more people seeking those things out because they believe it's moral. They believe they're being told that it's the responsible thing to do, because by having that child, the woman believes that she is then becoming a burden either on her parents, on her friends, on the boyfriend that doesn't want it. And so she feels like it's her moral responsibility to terminate the pregnancy, rather than seeing it as her moral responsibility to give life to what she helped create.
Yes, yes. Bishop, friend of show, says either get Congress to amend the Constitution or allow the states to make the rules. This goes for so many things. The federal government has way too much say in how we live. I agree. Explicitly do an amendment or leave it up to the states.
I
And
think
that's
the
not
amendment I think the amendment should be, and again, I think we need a little bit of time to digest this, hopefully not much, but that amendment should be recognizing the personhood of all human beings, including the unborn. And then that would give them the right to life and everything else.
Yep. And I like how you said let's kind of ease into it because things are a little hot right now. It might not be a good moment, but yeah, that's another example. Like how many people? I hate to generalize. Everybody's not the same, but how many people on the left do you hear? Let's not go too far on this right now. It's too hot. No, they're pushing until you're just bending the knee.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I agree completely with that.
Yeah.
So
We just
thanks,
need we
Bishop.
need yeah, we need women to know that there are resources out there and that they can do it. We need to encourage them, and then we go from there.
Yeah, I'm all for that. This might sound a little bit authoritarian for me, even, but I don't know if they already do this or not, but maybe you should be required to not be indoctrinated women before you have a treatment, the abortion, but at least be aware. Like, I don't know if it's a video or what. I mean, you have to,
It's the
take
ultrasound,
tests.
and that's
Hmm.
one of the things that we, financially support, putting our money where our mouth is, Save the Storks, and that purchases these vans that have ultrasounds in them, and they will go in, near, abortion clinics and offer them, "Hey, would you like to see your child?" And studies have found that 70 to 80% of women who see their child on an ultrasound decide not to go through with an abortion. And that's one of the reasons why, even though the left says that they provide health, prenatal care, they don't do that. And they don't show you the ultrasound. They have ultrasound machines, but they don't show the women that.
Yeah. Yeah. Eric Smith says, what more can the church do to facilitate resources for women? Great point. I would maybe we can. Did you have something to say?
Yeah, they do a lot. Another organization is Knights for Columbus. They are also instrumental in helping uh, clinics that are, pro-life clinics, have those ultrasounds in their clinic. So whereas the Save the Storks, they have mobile ultrasounds in vans, and go to the in front of the Planned Parenthood areas. Resources like CareNet and other things, the Knights for Columbus will help buy those ultrasounds to help them. And then CareNet offers, postpartum care. They offer, ability to buy, cribs and clothing and diapers. And so there are a number of things that are supported by the religious community to help them.
Yeah, and I will say this. I'm literally stuck in the middle on this topic, but for those who are cheering the right for abortion, they're the same people who cheered the government partnering up with big pharma forcing citizens potentially to take an experimental drug or get fired from their job. So
Yeah,
the
there are a lot of people who started using that term, my body, my choice. And yeah, well, if there's one body, then yes, it should be your choice. When there's two bodies, then you need some compromise, and you need to, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Life comes first. So if two lives are in conflict, you got to respect life. And then you have to then you can worry about your liberty and your pursuit of happiness.
Yep. And when I look at the two sides, your side, Jennifer, to me is more principled. I don't understand the argument, the contradiction there. See, you just explained the contradiction. Someone might say, wait, I thought it was my body, my choice. You're like, well, it's two bodies. Whether you agree with that or not, to me, that's a more principled stance than someone on the left who wants to inject you with an experimental drug and then also say my body, my choice. I don't see the explanation on the other side. So I'm just throwing that out there for people
Absolutely.
who, yeah, every party's not going to be exactly, because a lot of people are saying that, oh, Republicans or, the populist movement on the right is going to lose people over this. But my thing is, when you look at the populist right, that you could argue this is an authoritarian stance to force a woman through pregnancy. You could argue that. But what other stances do you see that are authoritarian from the right? I don't know. From the left, everything is.
Everything else.
So if you're going to leave the populist right for this one stance, that's fine. It better be a hell of a position that you have to go over to that side where they absolutely hate you and are authoritarian about everything else. What do you think about that? Do you think people will go away from will this hurt the populist red wave potentially?
No, I don't think so. I really don't. And believe it or not, there are Democrats that believe in the sanctity of life. And I think, if anything, it's going to bring those folks over to the one party that is going to help protect life.
Yeah. Freeman Man came in hot, and I do not disagree. Said, and it especially doesn't mean that you have the right for my taxpayer money to fund it. That is a point. I have no argument against that point. Do you have any thoughts on that, Jennifer?
Oh, yeah, I definitely agree with that. And being in the state of California, that's what they're doing with our tax dollars. They want to make this available, and that we're funding it. And I definitely am against that.
Yep. And I'm not too familiar with the adoption process, but 20 Kevron says, what about adoption? Why is it so expensive? And
I don't
do you
I
know?
don't have an answer for that. I don't. I know that so many Americans adopt overseas because even with the cost of going, cross country travel, it's less expensive. There's less red tape. And I think part of it is because you do have so many abortions in the United States that you just don't have the newborns available here. Now, there is foster care, but that is a tragedy, of course, that to get a child through foster care. But generally, if you are a foster parent, and I know from experience because my husband and I were foster parents for about 5 years, um, you take classes, you take children in that are in a crisis situation, and the goal is always reunification with the parents. But in the event that that isn't possible because of either the parent being incarcerated or not being able to get off of drugs and be a responsible parent, then they are available for adoption. And in those situations, then there generally aren't very many fees at all involved. It's something that is, because the child is in the foster care system, then there isn't expense associated with that. Now, sometimes there are newborns that are straight in put into foster care. And so sometimes that's possible also to adopt a newborn through the foster care system. But generally, unfortunately, it's because of drug use. And those are challenging situations.
Yeah. And I'll tell a personal story. My wife and I were struggling to have our first, and we were a little bit older than maybe the typical parent. And we had already we had gone through the process of, started the process of adoption, put the first money down, I think it was. And we literally found out like a couple days after. They actually refunded us when they didn't have to. It was nice of them. But yeah, we were going to go through that process. And then we found out right after that she was actually pregnant. So Freeman Man says pro-life is the populist stance. Freeman Man came in with bars today.
Mhm.
Okay, I like it,
I
man.
would agree. I would agree with Freeman Man. I think it is. I think that the media is tries so hard to make their views. They don't take a poll to get the pulse of what people think. They give polls out to try and create what the view that they want. And I think, some of the questions that are asked are like, for instance, would you support abortion only up to 8 weeks? There are polls that I've seen that broken down that that person who wants to restrict it as much as 8 weeks or 6 weeks will be considered pro-choice because they would support
Hmm.
that kind of a restrictive bill. But so when you add up whatever kind of exceptions, then they consider them pro-choice, and so that's how they get over 50%. But I think if they delved a little deeper, that's a compromise. The person who says I support it at 8 weeks is only because they know they can't get no abortions yet.
Yep, yep. This is the Freeman Man show. He said, Freeman Man says, I've noticed how no one who is pro abortion was aborted. Ironic, that is. That sounds like a little Yoda at the end. It was funny. Casual Goat, friend of show, says it's called use condoms and the pill. Take responsibility and abstain. Pull out. Change the culture away from sex driven insanity. There are many ways to change the views on birth and abortion. He's too based right there, right? Like nobody talks reasonable like that anymore. And what do you think,
Mhm.
Jennifer?
Oh, I completely agree. I'm Catholic, and this may seem absolutely extreme, but I believe it's contraception that paved the way for abortion. It's basically abortion is the backstop. The contraception fails, which it does because we're all human and our bodies react differently to medicine. I don't know if you've realized that over the last couple years, but not everybody responds the same way to the same exact medicine. And that, so things happen, and if people just went into a relationship knowing that if you are practicing to make babies that sometimes you might succeed, then I think they would adjust their behavior a little bit and maybe, you know ensure that they're in a committed relationship before they go in and practice.
Yeah. This is an interesting one, Jennifer. This is one of the big other sides that people ask here. They say, hey, if you, they always label it Republican. So, yeah, you Republicans or conservatives, you say that you're pro life, but you don't care about the poor and homeless. 20 Kevron asks, is that true?
Absolutely not. Another organization that I am a part of is the St. Vincent de Paul organization. And that is another Catholic organization like the Knights of Columbus that's service oriented. And we run a food for the homeless that we give out on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays. And we have a clothing closet that we give out free clothing. We hold yard sales for excess items that are donated, and then that money is used to be able to fund, the food and buying clothing or sleeping bags or anything that isn't donated. So no, I don't believe that's true at all. And also, I see a lot of pro-life people are involved in the foster care system because they value life and they want to help. Again, the primary goal of foster care is to reunify with their biological parents and to be there as a resource.
Yeah. So it's not true. Maybe you could see that in some cases, but I don't think that's, for me, that's not a legitimate take against the pro life stance. So cool. Let's I'll read one more from Freeman Man. He said you can't have a populace without life. Therefore, populists must be pro life. Don't agree. I don't disagree. That's facts.
Mhm.
So Libby, we got a special guest here. If you're just joining, Jennifer, her channel it's pinned in the chat. Click the link, give a subscribe if you like what you hear. For me, I like supporting people. She's just in her own crib talking to you like a normal person, not like what you see typically in this corporate media environment. And how did you get started, Jennifer, in doing YouTube?
Well, the events that happened last fall were very disconcerting, and there were a number of channels out there that may have been, in hindsight, peddling what's called hopium, where I think you might use the term white pill as well, where it's just hope, whether or not it's realistic. And so I was listening to a bunch of these things and hoping, and a number of them were starting to be canceled. They were just totally removed from YouTube, and then some others were saying, why they were being canceled, because they were speaking about things that the powers didn't want them to speak about. And so I was encouraged by, I think it was Sweet Home Maricopa, and he said, you start a channel, you name it Sweet Home whatever, and I will help get you off the ground, because starting a channel is very daunting. I owned a business that I tried to do some videos, but breaking through the noise and getting subscribers is really hard unless somebody helps you along the way. And so that's kind of how they got me started. So there was another channel that was called Headlines and Echoes that unfortunately was one of the ones that was struck down. She introduced me to you. And yeah, she just got a little too on the nose that YouTube didn't want her around anymore. But she's still out there as chaos coordinator, but not so much in politics anymore. But uh, I just felt like I needed to add my voice, in hopes that more people will understand that they're not alone, and just try and put out the facts there.
Awesome. Yeah, I do view it as like a superhero type of thing to be a citizen, to grab a mic and start talking about these topics. Headlines and Echoes is how I found out about your channel.
Hmm.
And if you don't know, there's probably a few people who found out about this, not just you, from Headlines and Echoes. The channel was awesome. She has,
Hmm.
I think she has 4 kids, something like that.
Yes. Uh-huh.
She would sit on the couch, or
Mom
she'd
of
be
4,
outside chilling.
caretaker of many.
Yes, yes. She would always say that every video. But she would be chilling somewhere, just on the couch outside, whatever. And she'd be so, I don't know how she got banned. Maybe it was something with what she would do is she would insinuate, like, hey, this stuff is going on and you might want to find more about it. And I got a
Mhm.
link in the description.
Yeah,
And
it
she would
was
be
the links.
promoting.
If
Yeah. And
if you
she,
if you linked to somebody who then was banned, then
oh,
you, by
oh,
association, were bad. So,
what?
yeah.
So, so if you link to somebody who then gets banned,
Yes, you better go back and scrub it.
wow, that's crazy. I did not know that. I'm just learning that now. So she was linking to like locals and other YouTube channels, and then I
Right.
guess she got taken down, but she was great. And then I just found out today from Jennifer, there it is, chaos coordinator. Thanks for giving us that there. So you here's how I view things. You grab, whoops, sorry, meant to remove the other thing. So we grab the mic and we just talk like normal people. And I always say, we've got to protect our First Amendment right to be wrong.
Mhm.
And of course, correct when we find out. And not just factually wrong, but wrong about predictions or anything else. The reason why, let me know what you think about this. The reason why I say that is what we're able to do now with the internet is to turn off corporate media. And we are now crowdsourcing the journey to truth.
Mhm.
So I have my opinion on abortion or whatever. We're just talking about abortion. You've got your opinion. The chat has their opinion. And we're
Mhm.
all kind of like, oh, we might be changing our opinions. We might be like, oh, I didn't think about it that way, or I didn't know that. When
Mhm.
they come in and shut down part of that discussion, then they shut down our growth.
Mhm.
They shut down our ability to build.
They're
What
putting
do you
their
think?
their thumb on the scale, and yeah, I like that you used the term about crowdsourcing, because uh, most YouTubers don't get any money whatsoever. You have to have some high bar in order to even start getting any sort of advertising revenue. 1,000 subscribers, 4,000 watch hours. It takes a really long time, and then even afterwards, it's going to be pennies an hour. So in terms of like a minimum wage, most people who are on YouTube are not doing it for money. They're doing it because they honestly want to share their experiences and help offer hope or solutions to things. You can just find anything on YouTube. You can find out how to fix your car, how to program something, how to figure out StreamYard, and then you can also share politics and things like that as well. But I like the term crowdsourcing. Somebody else mentioned crowdsourcing, that we should get rid of the whole tax code. and crowd fund government. So if you like a particular program, you want to give money to abortion, then go ahead and put your money and support it. If you want to support free speech, support that. You want to support defense, go ahead and put your money in that. I would love that idea, but that's basically what we're doing with our media. As you said, we are putting our time and through Patreon or these subscription services and what is it, Snapchat? No, super chats, that you are
Mhm.
supporting these people, and yeah, the media doesn't like that.
Yes, Casual Goats really liking what you just said there, Jennifer. Casual Goat says based, very based. I want to choose where my taxes go. And what heading down a, who cares about labels? I don't care that much, but you are heading down a libertarian path. Do you
Hmm.
have libertarian type of side to you, or do you look at it like that or not?
Yeah, I call myself, I'm registered as a Republican, but there's pluses and minuses to all the parties, and there's a lot about the Republican Party that I do not like. But overall, it is the side of the two that most represents my values. Pro-life. I believe in as small a government as possible, and unfortunately, a lot of the establishment, what I call rhinos, are not at all for a small government. They are just Democrats with another name. So yeah, I guess I would be more of a libertarian leading, but unfortunately, the way our system is, if you've got a third major party in there, all you do is succeed in having your enemy get elected. And I live that every election cycle in California because we have something called jungle primaries. And that basically means that Kevin McCarthy, who is my representative and I do not like, I have no real choice in the primaries. The top two of any party in the primary go on to the general. So if I don't vote for Kevin and enough people don't vote for Kevin, we try and vote for a lesser known Republican. All we're doing is going to have to choose between two Democrats.
That's great. California is like its own different country. So
Yeah.
we got California almost as its own very liberal now country. Not the whole state, but for the most part. And then now we got Florida on the other end, kind of doing the opposite almost. So I tweeted the other day. I said something to the effect of, and I just wanted to challenge people to think about it. To me, MAGA, if you want the boot of the government off of your neck, figuratively speaking, and literally sometimes, if you want it off of your neck, MAGA is the best option.
Hmm.
And the reason I brought that up is because people want to stigmatize Make America Great Again. They want to associate it only with Trump. It's much bigger than Trump. Trump is going to come and go. This is not going, this populist right thing. What do you think about that statement? That's where I'm in the middle. I don't consider myself MAGA, but I am leaning more towards your Marjorie Taylor Greens way more than anybody else right now. What do you think?
I completely agree. The Make America Great Again is basically we are being self-sufficient, and that we can make things here, that we take care of our own people, because just like in your household, you need to make sure your own kids are fed, you need to make sure your own bills are being paid, that your house is in good order, because unless you do, you can't take care of the poor that are down the street. You can't take care of the homeless that are on the corner. You don't have the money to give to someone that needs some food. As a nation, it's no different. If we are exporting all of our jobs to other countries before, well, we still have homeless on our streets, and that's wrong. We've got vets that don't have the ability to get medical care, and we're going to send those doctors to the border to help all the immigrants that are coming in illegally. That's wrong. So Make America Great Again is basically, we got to get our own house in order before we can be a blessing to anybody else. And I think that we're really seeing the wisdom in that right now, when we've got world events going on and we don't have our own source of fertilizer, we don't have our own source of semiconductors, we don't have our own source of lithium for these electric batteries that the left tells us we need to buy in order to save the environment. So yeah, we've got to do that. And yeah, totally agree with MAGA. And it is bigger than Trump.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm the same way there. So I like that. They said, I'm sorry, this was Cole said, why does everything in life have to have some kind of label? I agree. I fall victim to that just like anybody else. But the one thing that got me really into you was that you were aware and you're up on prepping.
Mm-hmm.
And nowadays, I'm not a very handy man. And I'm getting a little bit, I've never been insecure about it really. I do look back and think like, man, my dad was a handyman. I never paid attention when he said, come over here, let me show you how to do this. But now it's getting serious. Not that it's going to be doom and gloom. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
things get better from here. Hopefully they do. Pray that we do. It does.
Mm-hmm.
But things don't get to the point where you need to know about surviving on your own. They don't just happen in one day. They
No, it
gradually,
doesn't.
yeah, it gradually gets there, and we're on that path. So tell
Mm-hmm.
me, if I'm looking at, let me find out about prepping. What is prepping? What, somebody, a complete novice, complete idiot, what would you suggest to me?
The first thing you need to do is try and you have to live below your means. You've got to get rid of debt because so long as you are in debt, it is really hard to try and prepare for the future because you're only living in the moment. And so because of I've made financial mistakes, I am certainly not the example of I've done everything right, but luckily with the thanks of my husband getting a better paying job and I'm getting some I got my side hustle going on with making signs and other things that we've been able to start saving up a bit, and I have finally started getting into trying to prepare for that future. We're hoping to retire eventually, but it also is a matter of we have earthquakes near here. The power grid could go down. And if the power grid goes down, my refrigerator goes down, what am I going to do with all that food? I should have some things that are set aside that are shelf stable. And so I started trying to do that, learning how to dehydrate, learning how to pressure can. And so that's some things that I talk about on my channel as well. And it doesn't have to be end of the world scenarios, but the side benefit is that we are prepared for end of the world scenarios, but we're also prepared for hurricanes and earthquakes and inflation going through the roof. That if you've got enough food on hand, then hopefully you can survive the the stores being empty for a few weeks, or you can survive the inflation going through the roof because you've already got food on hand, or you can also survive the economy going down and if you lose your job and you can't afford things. If you've already got that stocked up, then you can weather that more. And by being prepared, you are going to be more independent and you will not be as controlled by an employer or the government or things like that because you're more in control of your own destiny.
Yes, thank you. It's something I have not talked about on the channel. I need to talk about more. I'm trying to get more educated on it. Like, this is serious now. The thing that really got me, triggered over the edge to kind of worry about this, and my wife thinks I'm a little crazy because I've never talked about this before. So you got to kind of ease into it. She's like, prepping, what the hell are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Our sanctions, we declared economic war against Russia.
Mm-hmm. And China.
Pretty much. Yeah, and China too. And they're kind of teaming up, but we declared economic war against China, and the ruble, last I checked, was at like almost all-time highs. It was at almost like 2-year high against the euro, back above where it was before the war started. And I'm like, wait a second, that's not what was supposed to happen. Biden himself
No,
said that.
they're paying less for gas than we are. So that
And
didn't work out very well at all. I don't know if that was an unintended consequence or if maybe it was intended. I don't know.
yeah,
But I
so
do know
either
that
way,
when they were accusing number 45 of colluding with a certain country, they were the ones colluding with that certain country.
yeah. And so I'm looking at it like, wait a second. I just like you, I don't know if they are making terrible mistakes or really don't have the best interest in mind of the common people, but we got to start looking out for ourselves. Damn the Republican, Democrat. That's what prepping is to me. Prepping is
Hmm.
like, damn all them. They're not going to
Hmm.
save you. When things
No.
get rough, they will be eating and you will be
Yeah.
struggling.
and you need to get back into community too, because part of being prepared is that, no person is an island. Um, get to know your neighbors, and you'd be surprised how many are have the same exact concerns that you do, and may also be doing their own, prepping. And by having that community, then you're going to feel better, first of all, that you've got somebody nearby that has your back. um, and also they may have different skills. You say that you're not one that's really all that handy. Well, maybe you've got a friend, a neighbor who's a plumber. Maybe you've got someone who's an electrician. Maybe you got someone who is raising chickens and they've got more eggs than they know what to do with. Maybe you can help them afford that chicken feed by buying some of those eggs from them.
What a
And just
skill. Just, yeah. Just
just keep it all
barter.
local. Hmm.
Yeah. What skills do you have? What can you do? I'm thinking about what can I learn to be just more handy? Forget about even prepping, just to be more handy around the house and stuff like that. So good. Eric Smith says, so far I have bought a food grinder and I have started grinding my own food. Now, what's that mean? Grinding his own food? Do you know what he means by that?
Are you talking about like the wheat grinders where you take the wheat and you're actually able to grind it into your own flour? Because I have actually bought the wheat and I do have the grinder, but I haven't gotten to the actual step of using it yet. That'll definitely
Wow.
be
Wow.
another YouTube video when I get to that point. But the main things that I've been doing are dehydrating. So like this is carrots. And so instead of having carrots in the freezer or in the refrigerator that they're going to go bad over time, I put them on a dehydrator. It takes about 12 to 20 hours, and then cut them all up and put them in this jar. I've got this is something that I invented. You put it in here. You have a cap. You got a food saver. Suck the air out, and then it'll suck the air out of this as well. And so air is an enemy to how long you can keep your food shelf stable. So you suck all that air out, and then that's going to last on your shelf 18 to 24 months at least. Some say decades, but I've only been doing this since July, so I don't have an answer to that.
Wow. So we've got some jokes in the chat. Casual Goat says he's grinding some other types of plants. Let's just say. So there's that. But let's do it. Let's talk about this. I want to talk about this vacuum, thing you've got going on. Here's a video from when you were on a big prepper channel, Alaska Prepper.
Hmm.
Let me play this video here
Food
for everyone.
saver attachment on. It'll fit that. You can also use a brake bleeder in this. I try to buy a brake bleeder at the auto parts store so that I can try it out in this, but guess what?
So this is the device that Jennifer just showed us, and Alaska Prepper is doing a review on it. He loved it, and he'll put the can in there in a second.
They didn't have any, right? So I went ahead and got my food saver here all set up. In addition to this unit, she includes a small O-ring. You see this little O-ring gasket right here? She includes that so that you can put over here to make sure that no air escapes. And let me show you what the inside looks like. It's just a rubber gasket that she put on the inside, of course, with a handle on the lid. This is a PVC 4-inch pipe that she capped off on one end. And as you can see down there, it's nothing down there. The one thing, after trying this a couple of times, that I would recommend is that maybe she take a little bit of like a sponge or something down there that you can put down there that will keep the jars from hitting hard. But all you have to do really is just bring it down with your hand, like that. See, and it goes down. And you can also fit your hand in there and pull the jar out. Now, I have pretty big hands, so if I can do it, pretty much anyone can. And I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate to you how this works. It's very, very simple how it works, and the thing is that it works. And I was like, when she first showed me this, I was like, wow, that is awesome. I remember Food Saver having something similar to this years ago, but they discontinued it. But guess what? If you want one of these, you can buy one now from one of our community members. And no, ladies and gentlemen, there's nothing in this for me. When I showed her how excited I was over our meeting, when she showed me this, she was like, can I send you one so you can try it out? I'm like, yeah, and if it works good, I'll definitely do a quick review video on it. And I hope that she sells 1 million of them, because this is pretty cool. This is filling a gap in a prep that a lot of people need, especially those people that maybe can't afford their own jars in mass, and they can save up a lot of these jars or get them from friends and family. I actually went on her video. She's got a video where she demonstrates on how to do this, and she pretty much says that you can take any jar, right? That, look at this. This was a spaghetti sauce jar. What is it? It's roast garlic pasta sauce from Walmart. This is one of those jars of food that I bought from that estate sale. And as you can see, I already ate it. So what she says is that, or the instructions is, you put the lid on, not tight. You just put it on until it's pretty much seated on there. And that's it. And as you can see, it doesn't have a seal, obviously, because I just put it in there. And all we do is just put it in here. We put our lid on. This is so simple. I really like it. So now all we have to do is just put on our attachment on the hole right there. And as you can see, the gasket is nice and seated on there. I'm going to put it on speed fast. Now let's go ahead and start it. And it stops by itself when it's done. And normally what I would do is this. You see our handle over here? What I would do is I would just lift that handle up, and what that does is it relieves the pressure. I don't know if you heard that. The pressure is relieving. And then if you're going to do multiple, you can just leave this on here and take your lid off. And now when we pull our jar out of there, it should have a seal. And take a look at that. It's got a perfect seal, and it's nice and seated. Now let's open it and verify the seal on this. And it definitely produces an...
That's crazy. Now, did you invent that, or what? How did you come up with that?
Well, he was talking about the Food Saver used to have canisters like that. They were clear. There were 3 different sizes, and a lot of people would just use them to put the food in that. They'd suck the air out, and it would be in this clear canister. Those canisters, the set of 3 originally, they were like $50. And I had a set that came with my Food Saver, and I thought, oh, I wonder if I could put this in there and it would work, and it did. And even the largest size, it didn't fit the quart. So the largest size of the Food Saver brand didn't fit the quart. So I was thinking, well, what can I do? And then I thought I had some PVC pipe, because I am a woodworker, and I use the PVC pipe for my dust collection. And after I thought of it on my own with the PVC, there are others that do make this, but the way that I make it is fairly economical. So it's pretty much about the best price that's available out there, because of the way that I make it. And with the handle, it makes it easy to take it off, because the seal's on there really tight, but the handle, you can take that off. And Bishop is asking about the oxygen things. What those oxygen things do is, when you put it in and you just twist that on there to seal it, is that it will bind the oxygen, which in the course of binding the oxygen will form a vacuum seal as well. But they do cost money. As soon as you open it up, you're going to have to get a new oxygen absorber. And there are some types of food that don't mix well with oxygen absorbers. And because I am still fairly new to the whole prepping thing, I know enough to know that I would have to research before I actually put them into my jars of food, because there are some things that oxygen absorbers have bad interactions with. But if you just vacuum out the air, then it produces the same effect without the negative side effects and without the cost.
Excellent. Thanks for the question, Bishop. And I think that's a really cool device. I'm gonna have to show my wife that. If somebody wanted to get that, how do they get that? Do you have a website or?
Yeah, right now I just have it on my Etsy store, and I will have to provide the actual physical link to it. So it is in that video that Alaska Prepper was showing, and I have a video myself demonstrating how it's used. And in both of those videos, the direct link to the Etsy store is there. But that review just came out last week. and it's gotten a huge response, so much so that Etsy, in their infinite wisdom, decided that they were going to suppress all of my searches. So you can't search for it and find it. You have to have the direct link because Etsy's concerned that I might not be able to keep up. But so far, so good. Everything's been going out on time, and I have lengthened, though, my processing times. So if you're interested in buying one, it will take about 4 to 5 weeks at this point.
Yeah, it's just you. Like one of your videos, I think it was today or yesterday.
Mhm.
You're just, aren't you making them while you're doing the video?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
you're just,
yesterday I was doing that just to reassure people that, yes, I am working on it, and yeah, they will be going out. My husband did help me a lot over the weekend with cutting the tubes. So, that and my mother-in-law is helping because after we cut them and everything, this is the one that I use, and I didn't bother cleaning that off. It is PVC pipe. It's not gonna be completely perfect, but, what you could do to decorate it up is that contact paper would go over that very nicely, and then you could have it match the decor of your kitchen. Maybe I'll
yeah, I
offer
didn't
that
even,
as an option.
that could be the next evolution of it for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. But
This
anyhow,
is,
you have to go to the direct link, so it'll be in one of those videos, either the Alaska Prepper review or my on my channel. Just look for the jar canister, vacuum canister, and you'll see the link directly to my store.
yes, this is her YouTube channel too. I just put
Hmm.
the link to the Alaska Prepper video in the chat, but here's the YouTube channel for Jennifer here, Sweet Home California, and you'll see it. We don't, as I go along this way, I've been meeting so many people. I want to make sure I don't lose touch with them, so I'm following. I think I saw you were on Twitter too, right?
I am. I don't really do any kind of back and forth, but I will throw out a video or two that I've just made or something. Try and stay engaged, even in the midst of the enemy.
Yes, yes. It's hard to. There's so many websites. It's hard to keep up with all of them.
It
But
is.
yeah, here are her videos. Great videos. I like how you multitask. That's crazy how you're doing your work and you're talking. It literally was prepping in politics while you were
Yes,
doing it there.
I like that
So,
alliteration too.
mm-hmm. Yep, yep. So how is it being in California with your? Does it feel like you're? I don't want to say in the lines of the enemy or something like that. Are you? Do you feel like that there's tension between you and your government or citizens around you?
Absolutely, but where I live in
Mm.
Kern County, Kevin McCarthy is our representative, so at least in name, he is a Republican. Our state assemblyman is a Republican, and our state level senator is also a Republican. But in California as a whole, the California state legislature has a supermajority, which means that all the Republicans could stay home and they would still have a quorum and would still be able to get past whatever they want to get past. But things like the People's Convoy has been bringing to light a lot of the bad laws that California wants to pass, and they were out in Washington when they decided to do a 180 and come back to California where they started because of 10 particular bills that California wanted to put forward, and at least 4 of them have been tabled. And I would credit the People's Convoy for helping to bring attention because our local news doesn't report on it. Of course, the national news doesn't report on what the California state legislature wants to pass. But because the People's Convoy has been talking about it, I started talking about it. I've heard other people talking about it, and then all of a sudden, we've got 4 bills that have been tabled. Not all of them, though. So we still have
Yeah,
to work on it.
you're right. We've seen it with I believe it was the school board stuff, but in I forget if it was San Francisco or where it was. I think it was San Francisco, where that Democrats were actually like some of these policies or some of these things going on are not aligned with us.
Hmm.
So I see some dents being made. But you mentioned the People's Convoy. I wanted to make sure that we touched on that because I'll be honest, I have not done a good job on that. I talked about the Freedom Convoy in Canada probably 10 times as much as the People's Convoy in our own country. Tell
Hmm.
us, what do you know about the People's Convoy? It's still going on right now.
It is still going on, and it started February 23rd. It was only about an hour and a half away from me, so I do have some videos on the kickoff that I was able to go and go there in person. I was able to meet Economic Ninja there as well. He was at the People's Convoy kickoff. They then went cross country to DC, where their staging area was in Hagerstown. My parents are in that area, so my mom got me some video on them arriving in Hagerstown. And then they went around the Beltway and met with a bunch of Republicans to try and get like the national state of emergency repealed. Fighting against the national mandates, and bringing attention to that. And then again, as I said, after about 3 weeks there, they realized that California was trying to institute new laws. So the things that were going on at the federal level, they were already there, and people are working on trying to repeal them. Things are still going through the court system, but they felt it was so important to come back to California and shine a light on that, because unfortunately what happens in California is often used as a blueprint for the other leftist states. And then when you get a certain number of them involved, then whatever is going on in California winds up being forced down countrywide. So they've been back here in California since, when did they arrive back? I'm going to say about April 10th. There was a big rally in Los Angeles, so they were here by April 10th. Some of them have gone up to Washington State, because there are bills up in Washington State that are currently wanting to be passed, and basically they're getting a little more fractured, because there are some that went up to Washington State, there are some that are staying in Sacramento, and they are also organizing basically 50 people's convoys to try and hit the state capitals throughout the United States, especially those left-leaning states that still want to have the lockdowns and the mandates. So if you go to the People's Convoy official, and there are some that say that they're the People's Convoy, but they've only got like 5,000 followers, that's not the right one. You want to look for the one that's got 335,000 followers. And from there, you can see links to the state level People Convoy Facebook groups.
Yes, so I'm seeing that they're suing now. I just saw this article recently alleging that the First Amendment rights have been violated because they got blocked off from going in D.C. Did you hear about that? This is from
I
just
didn't hear
yesterday.
about the suit, but I
Oh.
did know that that's what was happening, that they were blocking, and they weren't just blocking the truckers, they were blocking anybody from getting off of some of these off ramps, which obviously then wasn't just affecting the truckers, it was affecting all the citizens there too.
Yes, for those who are not aware, the main concern here, that my understanding is that the concern I brought up on the channel a lot, Joe Biden still has emergency powers right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's absolutely no justification that has been given to me that has convinced me that he needs to have emergency powers.
No,
But he
not
still
at all.
has
And then he wants to also remove Title 42 program, which kept illegal immigrants in Mexico until their asylum claims can be heard. Instead, he wants to just let them all in, where Title 42 was in part allowed to stand, whereas the remain in Mexico, because of the national emergency. So on the one hand, he wants to say we have a national emergency, but on the other hand, he wants to let everybody in.
Yeah, it doesn't add up, doesn't make sense. Those powers should be stripped. Mm-hmm. And then because of our country, we've got people, governors at the state level. I've been looking. I haven't been able to get a list. I have to dig into it to find out which states are still under executive emergency or whatever they want to call it. Is California still under Gavin Newsom's emergency edict?
There are still, Los Angeles County in particular is very bad. So I'm not really sure what is at the state level and what's at the county level. So I'm in Kern County, which is much more conservative, but Los Angeles County has the larger towns. So if I want to go to a Lowe's or I want to go to a Walmart, I've got to go down into Los Angeles County. So I don't know exactly what the difference is, as I said, between the state level and the county level on that, because LA, they make up their own rules.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. So if they don't give up their powers now, when are they giving them up? That's the question.
Yeah.
I mean, why would Joe Biden give it up a year from now? I mean, it's not
exactly.
going away. You're not eradicating it based on what the experts are saying. So
Right.
Eric Smith says the main one are currently in northern Idaho, headed back to D.C.
Mm.
Have you heard that?
No. As I said, I know that some of them went up to Washington State, and I know
Mm.
some were in Sacramento. So yeah, it's kind of fracturing all over the place. There is a number of YouTubers that are embedded within it. One of which isn't a trucker, but just decided to join, and that is First Responders Media. He's been with them since the beginning. So if you want to find out what's going on, you can check out his channel. There's also Trucker G. Hot Shot Rig. I don't know. There's a number of them, and you'll find links to them if you go to their official Facebook page.
Yeah, so that is, you just told me about that today. So I will be following to see what's happening. How can we support? I just feel like it didn't have the impact I was hoping it would have. They had a good meeting. I
Media
played some of the
blackout.
yeah, yeah. The media's pretty much blacked it
Mhm.
out, not talked about it or
But if you
anything.
see, seeing some of those videos while they were going cross country, those overpasses were just full of people supporting them and waving flags. And then when they got to Hagerstown, it was just the streets were lined with people welcoming them in. So, but yeah, I didn't see any of that on any of the legacy media news coverage.
Yeah, and Freeman, man, this is my concern too. If we're basically, there's no justification for it right now. So at some point they might switch and say, "Hey, we're done with these emergency powers," and now they're another groups of emergency powers. I did a video on they're trying to do a global treaty, and who knows if you just slide right into that. I mean, there's a lot. If we can't stop this from happening, then we're pretty much doomed. I mean, the government doesn't just give back power for the fun of it.
No,
So
no, generally they don't.
yeah. Yeah, so I like the videos you were showing and the passionate speeches. I think you were finding it from the Facebook group is where you were pulling some of those, the videos
Uh,
of the speeches.
from the truckers, uh,
Yeah.
a number, yeah, they were from the YouTube people that
Okay.
were recording them, and Saznak was one of them as well. But as far as I know, I don't think he's embedded with them anymore. But early on, he had joined up with them when they were right in Arizona, so he was with them for a good long time. But yeah, there's a number of people that were embedded with them. But First Responders Media is definitely still with them. I think the latest video is like day 70. He has been with them since day one, and 70 days he's been posting.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of these people are heroes to, I mean, think about how hard it would be to just drop everything you're doing and to really fight for freedom of just not for yourself, but for
Mhm.
all citizens. And you don't get any media. People are probably attacking you as this or that, just like
Mhm.
Tamara Litch in Canada.
Right.
So I just want to see is there a way we can support or what, I've got to look into that. But
Yeah, well, part of that, again, it goes back to being prepared, because if you've got a bunch of debt you got to worry about and your family doesn't have food in the cupboard, then you don't have those options available to you. So, people need to make sure that they're living well within their means and being prepared, stocking up, buying in bulk, saving money wherever you can, and then you have those options, and you're going to be a lot freer to do the right thing and not worry about what the government wants to encourage you to do.
yeah, yeah, great point. Great point. B. Deering 1-1, friend of show, said, I did some research and in 1942, we went into a state of emergency. Did we ever come out? I am not familiar. I would have to look that up. I assume we did, but I wouldn't be surprised by anything. I was blue pilled until the pandemic. I was pretty much blue pilled, so I probably wouldn't have any idea. Even though I kept up with politics, but I wasn't really looking at it in this way. So good. Well, here's what I want to do. Any questions for Jennifer before we end? I want to, again, promote her website. It's pinned in the chat. Go ahead, subscribe. Can't hurt. Turn on that notification bell. Always positive. And tell us about, you're spawning off some really positive, other channels that you're doing. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'm involved with This Way Network. which the main person involved is the person behind Sweet Home Maricopa and Sweet Home Arizona. He was the one that issued that challenge that, hey, if you start your own channel, name it Sweet Home something, then I'll help promote you. So after all this time, I was one of the ones that was keeping up with it, along with maybe 5 or 6 other people. And he approached me as well as the others, and it's like, hey, we want to do another channel where we're going to have all these small YouTubers, and we'll have like our own network. So I have my own show on that's called Rainbows and Silver Linings, where I try and show the positive things that are coming up. And I've had some very interesting conversations with some people. I got to speak with Jeff Zwirnik, who is a astrophysicist from Reasons to Believe. I got to speak with him, and that aired this morning over on This Way Network. I've also talked to Alaska Prepper and Economic Ninja and some of the other YouTubers. And so, it's just a great networking ability here. And we'd love to have you, be on that show as well. If you want to be my guest on Rainbows and Silver Linings, we'll have you over there and see if you want to contribute something on a more regular basis. And if anybody who is out there watching and you're like, I could never do this. Well, that's where I was at less than a year ago. And it is uncomfortable. This is outside of my comfort zone, but practice makes perfect, right? And you're not going to change anything by just necessarily talking to your spouse. I mean, it's just an echo chamber. Being able to get out there and share your thoughts with a wider audience, I think hopefully will make a difference.
Yeah, it's weird to hear you say that because you sound so polished, and not like in a bad way, but just so natural when I hear you. So great. Yeah, let's check that out. I'd be happy to be on that channel. I'm embarrassed to say I did try to start a positive channel, and I called it, I'm laughing because it didn't turn out so positive. It's called Positive Plus Some. And then like one of my last videos was the Mike Tyson punching the guy on the airplane. So it just turned into whatever I didn't want to put on here, I put on. So I'm glad that you're sticking to the positivity, but that's the vibe I get from your Sweet Home channel too. And it's realism. You talk about inflation and all that kind of stuff, but in a positive manner. Any questions out there? Let's go to the chat real quick. Freeman Man says, thank you, Jennifer, for everything that you're doing. You're fighting for us all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, that was good. Thank you so much. And there's some people saying that we never did, that technically America is still in World War II. I'm sorry, I am ignorant about that. I will definitely have to look that up. All this kind of, like we were just talking about earlier, crowdsourcing truth and knowledge. I did not know that. And when I hear stuff like that in the chat, like pretty much every time I check into it, it's right. So I would not be surprised. Eric Smith says, good job, Jen. Thumbs up.
Thank you, Eric.
B. Deering 11 says, thanks, Jennifer. Well, I appreciate everybody. Any last words that you want to, send out, or send anybody to your website or YouTube channel or anything?
Well, I just really appreciate the time. And I offer encouragement to anyone out there. I am a small businesswoman, and networking is really important. We don't have millions of dollars for marketing. Don't give your money, your hard-earned money, to corporations that hate you. Try and find those corporations and those small businesses that align with your values. And that's how we're going to help spread positivity, and our values will be spread better that way. And I would love to pay forward what has been paid out to me. So again, if there is a small crafter out there, there's a YouTube channel out there that would like to have a little bit more. I'm not a very big channel. I've only got about 3,600 subscribers, but I'll do whatever I can, and together we'll grow stronger.
Yes, absolutely. And you know what? It's really, you can say, hey, I only have 3,600 or whatever compared to someone who might have 100,000, but it's really about that vibe and the connections you make. For me, and I consider your channel a extremely strong channel. So let's help it grow, get even bigger community of the right-minded people. I could really see that growing. Bishop says, much appreciated. Folks like yourself are important to this current environment. Thank you, Bishop, friend of show. Cole Walt says, thank you. just found out about you the other day. Yeah, you never know. It's just weird. Like people will just find you. So I know there's a lot of challenges on social media, but I think it's I'm grateful for the opportunity. I'm meeting you because of this.
Absolutely.
Jennifer.
Yeah. Working from home. This is now my ability to go out and meet people that are outside of my own little neighborhood. But it's great. And thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yep. All right, everybody. Jennifer, you can hang on. We'll just wind down, but I'll let everybody else go. Thanks a lot for stopping by. I appreciate the support and love, and take care.